Today we're taking a look at the new Mizuno JPX921 iron lineup. Now there's actually 4 different irons in this range and they're all designed to cater for different golfers' needs. I wouldn't say these are radically different from what we've seen from Mizuno before. They come in to replace the JPX919 line, which was very successful, and you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So there are a few changes and tweaks across the line, but really it's cherry typical of what you'd expect from a JPX lineup from Mizuno. From a looks point of view, the one I get most excited about is definitely the Tour model. I mean, just look at it. Then really I would say visually across the other 3, they're all very similar in terms of styling. There's differences in sizing and kind of offset, but generally they're pretty similar. Now the first thing I want to touch on in this range is lofts. It's always a very contentious issue among golfers who hate the fact clubs have strong lofts but want more distance. Like, where do you think that extra yardage is coming from? With the exception of the Tour model, all the irons across this range have been strengthened by 1 degree compared to the previous iteration, and Mizuno have had to do this really just to keep up in terms of yardage with other brands. Consumers have such a big appetite for distance now and ball speed, it's really not an area you can be given anything up in. Okay, so first up we've got the JPX921 Tour, and this is probably the most unchanged model across the range, but it is the first JPX iron to be hand-shaped by Mizuno's master craftsman in Japan. Now this is made from the grain glown forged 1025E mild carbon steel, which gives it that really soft Mizuno feel. In terms of tech, it has a re-engineered stability frame, which basically means the shaping and weight has been redistributed slightly. So Mizuno have actually pulled some weight from the toe and brought it back behind the impact zone, and that's just going to help improve the feel even further. This is also designed to have spin robustness. So what that means is no matter where you strike it on the face in kind of a vertical format, you're going to get a very consistent spin, and this has been done by just driving up that MOI in this area. We also see slightly narrower soles. This is specifically in the shorter irons, and it's just designed to give you better turf interaction and more workability. Finally, you can see we've also got this really nice pearl brush finish. I think this is a big plus for a lot of golfers compared to, say, the MP line, where they prefer that kind of duller matte finish compared to the shiny finish on the MP20s. Now, even over the ball, these look incredible. Sometimes with very Tour-inspired or Tour players' clubs, it doesn't look very confidence-inspiring over the ball, it can look too small. But I have to say with these, they're a really comfortable size, and you do really feel quite confident over the shot. I would say when you get to, say, maybe the 4 iron, personally for me, that's where I feel like suddenly it's a bit too small and maybe I'd have to make a transition into something else. But really in the 6 and the 5 iron, they're still quite a nice, comfortable size on the eye. Now, typically when you think about Mizuno, you think of a really nice feeling club. It's just the association, and this is no different. It feels exceptional. To be honest, when I went back to hitting these, I was like, why did I ever get rid of my Mizuno irons? They just feel so good. Now when it comes to numbers, I don't really want to get too in depth into that because I've got 120 gram shafts in these. This is the stock shaft that you will get with this model, and for me that personally is a bit too heavy, so I think the numbers aren't going to be perfect. But really I was still surprised about how well I was striking them and how far they were going, like, relative to my clubs. I would have thought I would have seen a drop down in distance for obviously the shaft weight, and also because there's less tech in the head, it's less forgiving, but really the distances weren't that far off what I would see with my clubs at all, kind of only about 5 yards away. So really I think that's very good in terms of how kind of compact the club head is, the comparatively less tech, and also how good these look and how nice they feel. Next up we've got the JPX Forged. Now the story here is really about size, as Mizuno have made this a lot more compact than previously, and they've still managed to retain all the forgiveness with this. So this is key for those golfers who maybe wants to combo set between this and the Tour model, having something that's more compact and consistent across the range. But I also think it's better for that better player who prefers the looks of something more small and more compact. That's definitely somewhere I would sit. Sometimes I feel like I can't play Tour models because I don't have the distance or the ball speed, but I don't want something that's quite big. I like to look at something that's compact and doesn't necessarily have much offset. So not only is the club head smaller here, but the top line has been beveled to make it look a bit thinner. That's something I really like, and there is also some trailing edge relief added onto the sole. I would say the big talking point here though is really the new material. In a bid to gain more distance, Mizuno have swapped to a chromoly steel alloy. However, this is still a single piece to 100% forged golf club. Now, to increase that distance even further, Mizuno have actually milled into the back of the club head, and this creates some space behind the club face so it can flex, and more flex basically gives you more distance, so you're going to get that extra yardage you desire. Okay, so that was probably my best strike yet, and I have to say I'm not feeling a massive difference in feel. This definitely still feels really nice, especially on those centre strike shots. I would say I do notice a slight difference, but really it's more in how the club is interacting with the turf, or the mat in this case. You definitely can feel the sole is slightly bigger than the Tour offering, but in terms of feel, this is still really good. Now, one thing I would say is you can definitely feel straight away the increase in ball speed off the face. You can feel it almost springing, it just feels a little bit faster. So now for me in the long irons, I would definitely have to be using this. I don't think the Tour would work for me in terms of ball speed. It may be like a 5 or a 4 iron, but I would definitely be happy comboing this in terms of feel and looks. So those are really a better player offering within this range, and now we've got 2 game improvement clubs in the terms of the Hot Metal and the Hot Metal Pro. Now, the big difference here is that these are cast rather than forged. And this is because these are game improvement offerings, so Mizuno are really looking to increase players' ball speed. Now, from previous iterations, the face has actually been tweaked to be thinner, and it works with the cup face to allow the face to flex more, so you're going to get those higher ball speeds. The sweet spot has also been pushed lower, and this just allows for Mizuno to push down those lofts, get them a bit stronger, which is going to give you that extra distance. But that lower CG is really going to give you that extra height and that extra land angle, so you're really not going to be sacrificing that area to get your extra distance. But because of that, the head is slightly larger than in previous iterations. Now, in terms of look at a dress, I was quite surprised actually at how big a difference there is between these two. You can definitely notice the Pro is a lot smaller and sleeker. Now, I have to say, even though these are both game improvement offerings, they do actually look really nice, and I think the black shaft in the Hot Metal Pro improves the look even further. It almost makes the club head look a bit smaller. I didn't think I was going to strike these very well. Typically for me, if I see something that's a bit bigger or has a bit more offset, then I can strike them a bit heavy, or in this case get it a bit matty. But with these, I really didn't find that was the case at all. I was striking them ridiculously well at some points. You could definitely feel the extra ball speed, and I really feel like I could control them a lot more than some other game improvement offerings on the market. Also, to say these are cast clubs, I was ridiculously impressed with the feel. Okay, so overall I have to say I've been ridiculously impressed with this range, really. I knew I was going to like the Tour offering, but I really didn't think that kind of the Hot Metal clubs were going to be for me. I wasn't really sure how they were going to perform, especially when you think of Mizuno, you think of feel and Tour players, you don't necessarily think of game improvement clubs, but I think this range has definitely shown that's just not the case. In fact, I would go as far as saying I think these are some of the best game improvement clubs I've tested all year. Now, a big thing going into this for me was feel. We've got so many different metals throughout the range, and also different construction processes, but I actually found that the feel was really good throughout the range. Yes, it's obviously different going from the Tour model down to the Hot Metal options, but it's still a really nice classic Mizuno feel. So I think if you're someone who needs that extra ball speed, needs that extra forgiveness, but you're not someone who wants to give up on feel or looks, this is definitely a range that you need to take a look at. Right, that's all for today. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and as always, if you want more golf content, head over to the NCG social media channels for more.